All right. I want to just sit here and talk to you just for a minute. I was contacted by a carver to talk about this, and this is a difficult subject to talk about. Not extremely difficult as far as the subject, but I'm talking about I was asked the question, how do you start from scratch? How do you start a carving club? And I've been in a carving club for a long time. We had the Southeast Texas Wood Carvers down here. And I have been in one since the 1980s. And I've seen so many transitions of that club as it started out and what it is today and what it is not today, that I'm not saying I'm an expert. You might be able to find your information a lot better from someone else. But I have seen a lot of things go on in the process of our club as we went through various things that happened, various problems and issues that happened. And this individual was asking about the fact that he would like to start a carving club because he doesn't have anyone to carve with. Now, I've been carving for, over 30 years now, and I don't really have anybody to sit down and carve with. Maybe that's my own fault, I don't know. But, until I go to Gatlinburg and see Whittler Dave up there or something like that, and then I sit down and carve with him. But, starting a carving club, it depends a lot on the area that you live in. Excuse me. When I first started in a carving club back in the 1980s, or was involved. I wasn't deeply involved in it at the time, but I got more involved in the 80s, in the late 80s and stuff. We had 60 people. Had 60 members. And before we dissolved, which was about 3 years ago, we had about 8 members. And you hate to say things like that. And I know that other people in certain areas, they have a lot of carvers and stuff. And of course, the bigger cities, I know that you're going to have that. But obviously, when a person approaches me about starting a carving club, that usually tells me the fact that you don't have that many carvers in that area or whatever to get started and to find. Now, when you take your bigger cities, and yeah, you usually can get quite a few carvers together. But one of the things we're going to have to understand more than anything in the world is that the carving community is not that. I know we look on character carvers and we see all these carvings and all these different people of what they represent, and we think sometimes that the carving community is a large community, but basically they're not. In fact, they're a very small community compared to the amount of people we have in this United States. The carving community, and a lot of the carvers that you see, a lot of the carvers that you see are from the UK and other places like that, and from different places. So they're not a part of the United States. And this person was from Kentucky, and he wanted to know, how can I start a carving club? Well, let me just give you an idea of, we started out in the 1980s with 60 members. And of course, as people got older, they died, but we had a lot of incidences, tragedies happen around here. We lost people, we a lot of hurricanes. We had clubhouses that were torn up. We had different things that happened in our lives. We had all kinds of things like that happen. And so our carving club, we would lose places to meet. We did things like that, and what finally was the last straw is we had a place that we could meet, and people were, a lot of them were coming from an hour and a half away, which wasn't a very good thing because they had to travel so far. But the place that we were carving, someone bought it out and wanted to charge us an exorbitant price to be able to even spend 2 hours a month carving there. And so we lost a lot. We did. And now it's dissolved, and now we're back to carving by myself. But in fact, that was why I started the videos, because I wanted to kind of feel like I was carving with somebody or whatever, in other words, in such a way. But, you know, it's a very difficult thing to try to start a carving club. It really is. And especially if you don't have anyone in your area that is carvers. Now, you can get on Let's Talk Carving. You can get on there and you can ask, do we have, a lot of people do that, do we have any carvers around this area? They're just trying to find out. And then a lot of people find out that maybe there's a carving club, but maybe it's 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours away. So naturally, I mean, Houston has a carving club, but they're 2 hours away from me. And I would love to go up there and carve with them, but I mean, unless you live in that vicinity, it's very difficult to do those things. And now some carving clubs meet up to a week or more every week, and so I know it's just not possible to be able to do those things. So starting a carving club is not an easy thing. If you're having to find carvers, then it's going to become even more difficult. Because, like I said, the carving community is not a large community. It's just not compared to the amount of in fact, I guess if you really think about it, when it comes to artistry, you probably have more people that paint and do pottery and things like that than they do carve wood. So, you know, then you have an issue there. Now, in order to start a carving club, you have to, first of all, you have to find carvers that want to be there. You have to find someone that wants to show up, that wants to meet. And if you don't have a lot of carvers around your area, then you're going to have to get people interested in carving. Now that can involve many things. You can go out on a Saturday and you can sit in front of a if you got a Cracker Barrel nearby or whatever, sit in one of those chairs and carve and get to talking to people and see if they would be interested in learning and all those things. And you have to put yourself out there and try to find in that area, or find people who would be interested in being a part of a carving club. And it's not always an easy task. It isn't. And then, of course, today with people's busy schedules, finding a time to, or especially a place, you've got to find a place to have your carving club. Some people meet in homes, but most people don't like to meet in homes. They like to meet in a specific place where people can go and sit down and spend a couple of hours or whatever. Now, in your big cities, you have a lot of, well, you have clubs that meet every week because they have enough carvers and stuff like that. And that's fine. You can, I think Chip Chats puts out the different carving clubs, and you can Google where the different carving clubs are and stuff like that, and see within that reach. But if they're not around you, then you're going to have to try to draw an interest in people wanting to carve. And remember, carving is something that you have to love to do. And we've talked about this before. So starting a club is a difficult task because you've got to find a place. And just like I said, we had a place and everything was going good for about a year. And then someone bought this place out and started wanting to charge us an enormous price just to carve there. So we just, we went under. We couldn't afford to pay them what they, and it was ridiculous anyway what they charged. I think basically they just wanted to get rid of us. They really did. They didn't want us there, and they made it quite known. So, but you have seen, you can see that the issue that we have, for instance, putting together carving clubs, but you've seen even in shows, I know they picked up, but you saw where the Dayton show shut down because of perhaps lack of having enough people to come or things like that. So you're not going to have that interest as much anymore. And if you can find some people and want to meet in a home or meet in their garage or whatever it is, you know, you don't want to really throw chips around in somebody's home, but or something like that, it's a good thing to start. But once again, a lot of these clubs that have these large clubs, they're in large cities and where you have a large variety of people that are in the arts or whatever, if you're arts community or whatever, to learn such things. And you can also get involved with, if you're looking to start a carving club, you can get in with, if your town has an art studio or something like that, and you can make known that you are a carver and you would like to see if anybody would be interested in maybe taking a class or doing something like that. But other than that, you run into the issue of time. And I remember when carving clubs were so prevalent at that time, we had so many members. People were just different back then. And when I'm saying different too, people had schedules. They worked a 5-day, 8-hour work week. And so they were off at night and things like that. But now people work shift work. I know I worked it for 40 years. And people don't have the time as much. They have kids after school that are going here and there and have sports and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of times young men don't have time to carve. They have to give it up until they get older. And let's just be honest with ourselves. The majority of our carving community is older people. Now, I'm not saying they're not younger men. There's some good young men, but I'm saying the majority of them are older people. So another thing, if you have a senior citizen place where senior citizens meet, you might be able to go there and interest men into perhaps wanting to learn how to carve. If you were living in an area where I know there's a lot of people that live in areas that start carving clubs, like Florida has a lot of those areas where, you know, I don't exactly know what you call those areas, but those areas where everybody travels in golf carts, you know, and it's one community, and they have community centers and stuff like that. And if you have the access of using those things, then you can start a carving club with older men and stuff like that. But usually, like I said, with much younger men who have children, unless the wife is willing to be involved in the children in some way, most of the time their time is put out on other things. So that can be a difficult factor. For instance, myself, we had lost our carving club for a long time, and we tried to restart the carving club, and we did, and we tried again, and we just had issues, and it failed, and now it's dissolved, and we just don't have it anymore because we just don't have the people in this area that are carvers. In fact, I just saw where a carver who is a part of our club is battling cancer right now and stuff. And so life happens, folks. It does. So trying to start a carving club is a difficult task. And you can get with some good ideas. And like I said, if you could put yourself out to the public a little bit, or go to some of these senior citizen get-togethers or things like that, and get these older men who have time on their hands interested in doing a carving club, then you can start one. And you have to start off with maybe a few men or one or two, and some other people get interested. And churches are another factor you can use. If you go to a church or you're a part of a church, and they sometimes, churches will let you use their rec rooms or things like that. And even that, if you're a member of a church and people like and see your carvings and like the way you do it, and you say, hey, I'd like to teach y'all, or maybe, then you can oftentimes start people. You've got to be in an area where you can be around a lot of people. And big cities, of course, have a lot of people, and so they going to have carvers in there. For instance, but I've noticed, even going up into the Smoky Mountains, you know, unless you're a chainsaw carver up there, you hardly see that many hand carvers up there. And of course, that's what we do. We do hand carving or hand whittling or whatever. We don't see a lot of people who just hand carve. You see, you know, Smoky Mountain Woodcarver's shop is now no longer there, and Gene Webb's place is not there, and a lot of these places have been shut down, and they no longer exist. So to start something like this is an extremely difficult time, and you have to schedule, you have to you know, you can get together and carve, but people want to have classes so they can learn and do things like that. And like I said, then you have older men like ourselves who health problems come along, and like with us, hurricanes came along, and some of us lost our homes like I did, and so I'm not saying, and I'm not discouraging you, please don't take it as that. But do understand that, you know, that it can be very frustrating. I look back at the original carving clubs we have, and I mean, we had a lot of fun. We really did. And, but talk to people who have started carving clubs. Talk to them, see what they have done and how they've created these clubs. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to put yourself out there so that people will know that you're doing this art, and that you would like to have others involved in it. And so I don't know the attendance of the shows that are occurring now and stuff, but in most cases, if you are in a retirement community, you could probably start a carving club a lot easier than you could if you just lived in a small town. Because in a small town, you don't have the people, you don't have the individuals, and you're not going to have as much, you know. Now, look, when I say something, don't get me wrong. I know people come back and go, well, I did this and I did that. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But like I said, I've lived down here a long time. I've even tried to start classes and stuff, and people just, they're too busy. They're too busy. They don't have time. They, like I said, and when the carving club that we had, sometimes we have 8 to 10 people. Sometimes we have 5 people. Sometimes, but I remember when we had a lot of people. But it was a time when people had time in their lives. And that's one of the biggest factors right now with younger people, is when you have children. And I remember raising my son by myself, that having children, and now, like I said, they're in sports, they're every afternoon Families are running back and forth with soccer and football and baseball and all kind of sports and stuff. Volleyball, my son was talking about, he lives in Kentucky, and he's got to bring my granddaughter has a volleyball game at 7 o'clock. So I'm just saying that if you're in a community that there is an interest in it, then you can start a carving club or start something, if it's just 2 people, whatever, and help each other learn. But to keep something like that going, you have to have a love for carving, and you have to have a love for the thing. Now, like I said, I'd like a lot of people to comment on what success they've had with carving clubs and the discouragements they've had with carving clubs. And I can give you a lot of discouragements because, and I loved our carving club, I did. But unfortunately, in today's world, and there was one young girl that we had in our carving club. She was probably around 30 or 35. And she would come sometimes, and most times she wouldn't, because she had a child at home and she didn't have time all the time to come and be a part of it. So those are the things that stand in your way. Like I said, another thing, Boy Scouts. If you have Boy Scouts around there and things like that, you can go and I would say this: if you really want to be with someone and carve with somebody, then try to get somebody interested that on an individual basis, and then you can carve with them, and or go down to the Boy Scouts and maybe hold a class with the Boy Scouts. Of course, be careful with the Boy Scouts. Make sure they're old enough and none of them get cut up and stuff. And so, maybe some of the scout leaders would like to learn to carve or something, and then y'all get interested in it. But once again, the big factor is time now. It's for people to have the time to do it and find the time to do it. And for instance, I can't remember what carving club it was advertising that it's early in the morning, like 9 or 10, as they have their classes and all that stuff. Well, let's be honest with you, okay? If you're having classes at 9 or 10, you know that 90% of those guys coming in there are retired and are not working anymore, because anybody working can't make classes like that. So you run into that. But I think in most cases, a lot of people, they're not necessarily interested in starting a carving club as much as they would just like to have someone sit down and carve with them. And that's when I started my videos, that was what I tried to sort of relay in such a way, is a sit down and like I'm carving with you, and I didn't want to edit things and all that other stuff. So, in a matter of speaking, and I'm outside in the garage if you hear a little noise, but research it, try to see if you can find anybody in your area. And to be honest with you, if you can find somebody in your area that would like to carve with you, then just don't worry so much about a club, but just meet to carve with them. And then you can meet wherever you want to. You can meet at your home, go to Burger King and carve there. They probably don't care. They probably enjoy having a couple of guys sitting there whittling, and as long as you clean up now, and all that stuff. But those are just things like Whittler Dave. He goes down to Burger King and he carves, and they don't say nothing. They enjoy seeing him and stuff. So, it's just Dave and I have talked about that, and I've asked Dave, do y'all have a carving club up here? And he said no. He said, this is Believe it or not, this used to be a craftsman town, but now it's it's a money town and all that. So, and I'm sure they have people up there that carve, but getting everybody together on a certain time, a certain day and stuff, even for older people, is hard. So younger people, it would really be an issue. So like I said, if you want to try to start a carving club, then you're going to have to put yourself out there. You're going to have to get people interested. And I'm talking about senior citizen places, and you know, you're going to have to kind of go to where people have time, okay? And a lot of people, young people, just don't have time these days. I mean, they're scheduled between work and kids and all that. It's just, you know. So anyway, I hope this helped you in a little bit of a way. But if you put yourself out there and let people know that you do carve, and I mean that's as much as going down or making a video or doing whatever, saying I'm the Kentucky carver, and I live in this certain place and I'm interested in people. Make a video. That's another thing. Make you a video and just say, well, you know, I'm a Kentucky carver and I'm interested in maybe getting a carver, and I live here and all that stuff. And you know, because the web is so, you know, so many people see it, and then maybe somebody will get a hold of you and say, hey, I'd like to do that, or I'd like to learn that, or whatever it is. But you got to put yourself out there, and when you do, then you'll understand that you can't just sit and go looking for carvers a lot of times. You've got to put out things like that. Maybe if there's an ad or free thing that you don't have to pay a whole lot of money, you can put an ad for it. You know, if there's any people that are carvers and interested in starting a carving club, let me know, whatever. I'm just trying to give you ideas. It's not always the easiest thing, but thank you so much. I hope I helped in some way. I just want to take this particular subject and discuss what involves and starting a carving club and what it does to keep it. Starting one's easy. Keeping it is not always that easy. Keeping the interest, keeping people interested in it, keeping people wanting to come, those type of things, not as easy. Because unless you have a lot of people involved in it, it's going to be a one-man show. And you're the one man that's going to have to do it all. So that's what happened. Just like the Dayton show, you know, there were some people that did the Dayton show, and you know, it was just a lot of work, and they just weren't getting enough carvers showing up and stuff. So that happens. All right, God bless you now, and I hope that and I wish you luck. I wish you blessings. But I know what it's like to carve by myself. And like I said, if you feel that you just want to be with other people, well, do you some videos and get feedback from people. And it makes you feel like, you know, there are people that care. There are people that want to talk about carving, things like that. Just do things like that. And you might find out that there's people that want to talk to you. I know Whittler Dave, he's been by himself for a long time in Gatlinburg, and he's even carved on the streets of Gatlinburg and hasn't really got too many people to want to come over. He's a very hospitable man. He invites people over. Anybody that wants to learn to carve, but like Dave said, you know, it's a very difficult, frustrating thing sometimes because some people tell you they want to do something and then they don't show up, or they don't, you know, it's just as we all know. That's in everything though. All right, God bless now, and I hope I helped in some way. I'm not an expert on this, but I mean, over the years, I've seen the trials and tribulations we went through, and you know, and if you can find, here's another thing before I go. If you can find, if you're around town and you have shop owners that allow you to sit out in front of their shop and whittle, so that people around a shopping area come in and see you, you can get people interested, and that's the only way you can do it. But you got to throw yourself out there. All right. God bless you now. Bye-bye. And excuse my voice.